Super excited to have as my guest today, Mr. Trey Griggs. A little bit about Trey. He is a classic jack of all trades, master of none character. From teaching high school physics to flipping homes, there aren't too many jobs Trey hasn't attempted, and according to him, he's enjoyed just about every one of them. Trey currently works within the transportation industry as a technology consultant and an industry personality, often incorporating the skills he's acquired in his previous roles to entertain, educate, and inspire those around him. His passion is helping people live a more enjoyable, fulfilling life, and he sees technology as a main driver to accomplishing those goals. When Trey is not impacting the transportation industry, you can find him on adventures with his wife of 15 years and his two amazing daughters, remodeling their home, writing blogs, playing golf, and filling in with the worship band at his local church. So with no further ado, welcome, Trey.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Thanks for making the time. I know things are a little chaotic right now, but I really appreciate you keeping the appointment for the interview. So let's talk about what's on everybody's mind for 1 second, right? The COVID-19. I know you said we talked about how leading during a time of crisis like this right now is a lot of weight for people to carry, you know, men or women. And just sort of what are your thoughts on that? How are things like in your industry proceeding? How is it playing out in your professional and your personal life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think these are uncharted waters for a lot of people. I think small businesses in particular, but even large businesses are having to make tough decisions. They're having to adjust on the fly for probably the first time in a long time. Most of the people that I work with do not work from home, but now they are, and
Mm-hmm.
it was thrown upon them without much warning. So there's a lot of chaos, a lot of unknowns right now, and leaders in general are having to be decisive, make decisions, help their people, but also they're going to have to make tough decisions because this is going to affect, the economy. It's going to affect cash flow. It's going to affect the ability of employers to keep their entire staff. And those are just very difficult situations to navigate. I'm seeing that play out in our industry, just like most industries, where these circumstances are just causing a lot of change. And there's a lot of positives that can come out of that, but it requires really good leadership to
Mm-hmm.
push people in that direction, and to be able to try to find those silver linings, even in these times where it's hard to know what's going to happen. A month from now, even a week from now. I remember just 1 week ago, I was enjoying a pretty normal life, watching the first golf tournament, and then 7 days later, it seems like everything is shut down. And so, to transition on a personal side, with my family, I just noticed throughout the years that when my leadership is strong, and my wife and I are on the same page from a leadership perspective, our kids follow suit. And when we're not leading well, then the same is true, and they struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So we know during this time that it's important for us to maintain a positive attitude, to find the silver linings for our family. Now, we're an interesting family because I work from home, and I have for the last 5 years, and my wife is a homemaker of the last 12 years, and we've also been homeschooling our kids for the last 5 years. So our life hasn't really been turned upside down as much as others, but we just know that in this time where there's a lot of questions, we have to talk to our kids about why they can't have play dates with their friends or play with the kids on the block, why we're not going anywhere for the next 2 weeks. Now, granted, my kids are 12 and 10, so they're able to understand some of those things, but it still requires good leadership. It
Mm-hmm.
requires panic. It requires us, again, to be creative and figure out ways to make sure everybody gets through this with their sanity. And it's just difficult because we just don't know, what the next, 10, 12, 15, 30 days holds. But I think that leadership is critical, both professionally and personally during these times.
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. Like everyone's routine, and also a part of life for many that we would be gravitating to right now is worship or church or spiritual community. And even that's sort of been quarantined. So people that, that's huge, a huge part of our lives. And, we miss our people, but I mean, thankfully, thankful to technology, we have ways we can Skype, we can video chat with friends, check on them, but it's a hard adjustment. I mean, and as the parents or the leader in the company, right? We're struggling with our own fear and anxiety, and then to try to maintain that um, leadership role, that strong, steady, quiet, calm role is, I think, a challenge many from top of the government down to, I mean, people have not been faced with this. And we're seeing a lot of sort of amazing leadership, governor level, different levels where people are really keeping the calm in their communities. So that says a lot um, about leadership and sort of maybe some hidden people out there that we wouldn't consider stepping up in the role. It's
Yeah, I
been
think it's
interesting.
great. I would just comment on that. When I played basketball for two coaches that won over 900 games each, my high school coach and my college coach, very successful men. And one of the things that they always used to tell us, I remember this, like it was yesterday, is they said that, the tough times and adversity doesn't build character, it actually reveals it. And I think that's
Mm,
what we're seeing now is that in this time, you're seeing those people who have been developing their leadership skills and the people who are not, I wouldn't say natural born leaders. I think leadership is a skill and it's learned, but you're seeing the people who have put in the time, who have worked towards being good leaders for these moments. But technology really is helping. And I would love to comment on that because, it's
sure.
nice the age we're in because our church was online last week. A lot of churches have been online. Businesses have been able to move online for the most part. Not
Hmm.
all, of course.
Right.
There's a lot of people who that's just not an option. I mean, our trash service and our recycling service is still coming around and people are out working and doing the things to keep things going. But for the
Mm.
most part, technology has played a huge role in that. And it's times like these, it's disruptions like these that force everybody to think differently and outside of the box and get creative. And so, again, these are some of the silver linings that we're talking about. But yeah, technology's played a huge role. But even our communities and the people that we depend on in terms of our network and the social fabric of
Mm.
it's all kind of been turned upside down. It requires a lot of intentionality to maintain that and capture that virtually online because it's still, I mean, FaceTime is great. It keeps things going. It's not the same, but at least it helps. So
Yeah, I agree. And there was a segment on this morning on one of the national news channels about a garbage collector who, I guess put out on Twitter something about, I can't work from home. If I work from home, you sit
right.
in your garbage, so
Yeah.
he goes out crazy early, 3 a.m. to try to start his route early so he's not exposing himself to people and vice versa.
Yeah.
Um, but what I love about this, because I am such a cheerleader for the underdog. I always have been. And my husband gets mad at me because he's like, why do you take everybody else's side? And it's not that. I just feel like there's always another angle that we're prejudiced in our own mind. We already have our opinion, but maybe we didn't think about it coming from their angle. So that's an interesting, that's another interesting conversation. But I love the fact that pe- people in jobs that maybe have not been as respected as much as they should be, service industry, garbage collecting, food service workers, people in the grocery stores, that they have to go to work and they're exposing themselves, their health, their family by being at work every day. So
Yeah.
who are the real champions, right? I mean, I don't care if you've got a Harvard doctorate, in your mansion, that's great. But the real people that I think should be celebrated, the people that are the healthcare staff, all these people risking their life, really, or I won't be that dramatic, but
Well,
it's
they could be.
intense.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And
And
they there's certain essential functions that are required in order to maintain society, to maintain civility, to maintain health. And there, you can't doctor from home, right? You can't be a nurse from
right.
home. You can't pick up the garbage from home. There's a lot of those jobs that often do go unnoticed. That now it's the only thing we see, and
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for those people who are willing to do that. It's just a challenging situation.
Yeah, absolutely. In this ways we can, I know we're leaving notes for our mail carrier.
Mhm.
They're touching everyone's mailbox. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, I should be lysoling my mailbox every day. Ooh,
That's
just
a great idea too, to leave a note, of encouragement, because I mean, I'm sure that they're, driving around and they're literally, not seeing anybody on their route because people are in their homes or, just not going outside. So it's got to be a weird
yeah,
feeling to drive around, deliver the mail, and feel like you're in an
I know.
apocalyptic kind of,
And how
episode.
much are you appreciating getting mail now? Like if you get a card or something, it's like, and
Right.
we've been writing cards again too. I think these the isolation, like again, we have a similar home situation. My husband's office is adjacent to the house. I worked for him for years. I'm working from home now because I'm unemployed. So, this is our norm sort of anyway, to be
Yeah.
in the home working. But I forgot where I was going with that.
That's right. We're in
Anyway,
the same situation, but a lot of people's lives are really turned upside down right now.
yeah, yeah. And we just, being grateful to people, expressing that however we can, stick a note on the mailbox, leave a
Uh,
note for the Amazon delivery guy on the door, just things that so people know we're grateful for what they're doing.
Well, and one thing I would
Um,
add as well is that, it's really neat that there are things that come of this that you wouldn't plan for. And for example, even though I work from home and we're home a lot, I'm getting to spend a lot of time with my kids, and that's been a kind of a nice change. We're doing
yeah,
things that we've been putting off. For example, my daughter really wanted to learn how to play guitar, and it's one of those things where you think, oh, it should be easy. We're home all day, but it's just difficult. And now, because we've been forced to slow down,
hmm
we're able to do some of those things that we've just been putting off. And it's, my daughter's excited, to be able to play guitar. And I encourage people when I talk to them that, yeah, this is not an ideal situation. But again, there's always positives in every
yeah,
situation for them. And those are some that I'm experiencing is extra time with the family, time to do things around the house that we've just been putting off, whether it be playing games together or playing music together or talking about things that we just don't get to throughout a busy day. So
yeah.
enjoying that right now, even though it's not ideal. It's been really nice to have that time and that ability to focus on those things.
Yeah, we when we spoke yesterday, we said you especially stressed trying to find that silver lining because our outlook, our the way we approach every day with all the stresses on us, the additional stress now, makes it different. It sets the tone in the family. If we are still at an office with, sparse staff, it sets the tone there. And it's not that we want to be like a Pollyanna and pretend everything's fine. We know it's not fine, but we
Right.
still, um, it's again, it's part of being a good leader, being that looking for the positives in it. And I think there's a lot online too. People are saying that we've scrambled for years, so crazy out straight, saying, "Oh my God, I just wish I had more time for my family, and I need to make more time, but I have no more time." Well, this is like a kind of a gift. You have the time now, even if it's additional stress. So try to make the most of it, right? Like you
Yeah,
said.
absolutely. I agree with that completely. I don't think you can ignore the fact that it's a tough time and, you know,
Right.
lives are being turned upside down. It's not ideal at all. But at the same time, there are those positives that are there. And it's important that we look to those. That gives us hope. That gives us encouragement. That gives us something to look forward to and something to fight for. And I think there's a nice balance there that can be had between acknowledging the reality, but also, identifying the positives and the silver linings in every moment that we live.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think it's a huge opportunity to teach our children, if we have children, social responsibility because I, I don't want to get too much into it, but if you look at the spring breakers down partying their brains out on all these beaches around the coasts, and they're like, if I get it, I get it. I mean, I remember being young and foolish, but there's a, it's, to me, it's sadly a reflection too of a parenting fail or a lack of parenting because if they had been raised with social responsibility that it's not just about you we and that's hard to teach a young person. They think they're invincible, they think they're untouchable, and they don't care. A lot of the kids today don't care about the future, but I feel like this is a that's going to when they all go home from the beach and take whatever they're carrying with them, I just think it's going to be another whole nightmare. But this is a chance to teach our children social responsibility, that we have an obligation to our fellow man to look out for their interests too, right? Not just our own fun or, I mean, we canceled a trip to Disney at the end of the month. My daughter school is probably canceling prom. She most likely is not going to have a senior graduation ceremony. None of those last days in school with your friends and all the fun rites of passage that come, she's that's gone. I mean, unless some miracle happens in the next few days. And my heart's broken for her. That's not huge as far as life and death, but when you're 18, it's everything. So
Yeah, it's tough to be a high school senior this year. This has got to be one of the more difficult years to be in that place in life. And I think you're right. I think this is important to teach our kids, remind all of us that we really are in this together, that we depend on one another, that community is important, and that we all do carry responsibility. It's very difficult and disheartening to see people with a complete disregard. I mean, it's challenging because you wonder how serious this is. You really don't know, but when you see major industries closing down, losing billions of dollars, they don't do that on a whim, and it's something to take notice of. And so it is disheartening to see that. Because we truly do have a responsibility to our neighbor, to our community, just to help each other out. And so, yeah, I agree with that. It's difficult to see, but it's a time when we can teach our kids those principles.
yeah. And I don't know if you're near your folks or if they're around, but I'm having a hard time keeping my 76, oh, she's going to kill me, 76-year-old mother in the house. She's like, she's like running on 45. She just doesn't stop. She exercises. She goes out every day. She's very sociable. And she went to Target. And after she told me her whole story and how TJ Maxx is closed and Home Goods is closed and Marshall, and I said, Mom, what did you go to Target for? And she said, slippers. And I'm like, you risked getting COVID-19 for slippers, but she's going stir crazy. I mean, she's just, so I'm also dealing with that, trying to keep my parents, my mom and stepdad, in the house. I don't know. I guess it's a struggle for everyone.
It is. And when you realize that the population that has the most experience in life, the older population, are the ones who are being affected and impacted the most. I'm in the same boat. My parents are in their 70s, and it's the same type of thing. It's I'm more concerned for them than I am for myself and my kids, obviously, because obviously there's a limited number of doctors available, hospital beds available, and elderly in general deal with health issues on a larger scale than the regular population. So there's already a need for for room for them, and this is only going to heighten that. So yeah, I'm dealing with the same thing. My mom's a go-getter, so it's
which we love about them. It's just right now, stop go-getting.
That's right.
Okay, so we talked about a little bit about we talked about how I launched the Gentlewoman Boss and how done is better than perfect, and how being able to pivot in times like this, like you already talked about, moving your business online, your church services online, things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that and how having that flexibility as a person can be like a game changer right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to my my childhood, the way I was raised, and the idea of being a jack of all trades kind of a guy. I'll tell a quick story. When I was growing up, I played a lot of sports. My dad coached all of my teams. I played music. I sang. I was a part of just about everything I could be a part of. And I was always able to participate and compete, but I was never really the best. And that was frustrating as a kid. When I would go to middle school and, we would have these debates on who was the best third baseman in our little league. And I wasn't the best third baseman, but I was a decent third baseman. And growing up, that was a difficult way to, to live, always just kind of being second best or whatnot. But now that I'm older, and the idea of being a generalist, of being able to do a lot of different things, is such a blessing. And I read one somewhere recently that generalists are usually more successful than specialists, and it caught my eye because I thought, well, I'm a generalist. That's interesting. But I think it's true because it allows you to be more flexible. It allows you to pivot and feel comfortable, to be able to do a lot of different things. And I think that's that's what's needed right now, is the ability to adjust and to lead people in those adjustments, because change is hard for everybody. Change management is one of the most difficult things for any organization to maneuver, because people struggle with change in general. And so the idea of being more of a generalist has actually played pretty well for me in life. I think in times like this, it makes it easier to say, what are we doing today? Okay, let's do it, and not really be too upset about it. So it's important to have that, that flexibility and be able to adjust on the fly, especially in this day and age where things can change seemingly overnight. You
Right.
know, most of my friends have never worked from home. The people I talk to in my industry, and now they're all having to try to figure that out. And it's new. And the ones that are doing well are the ones who are flexible, the ones who have multiple experiences and have transitioned. Long gone are the days of working for a company for 30 years and doing the same
Getting
job
your
every day.
watch,
Exactly. I mean,
getting your
those
watch at your retirement party.
are past us. So being flexible is really important, especially in these moments where we have to adjust.
Yeah, absolutely. You had shared something about a colleague that has you're in the transportation industry, and he has a certain niche that he caters to that is now, um, for now, let's be positive, not viable solution for him. It's not, they're not moving that stuff right now.
Right.
So I think the people that are coping the best right now or will be in the future are people that did not put all their eggs in one basket. And like you said, it used to be, my grandfather worked at a knife making company for like 54 years. It was like, he literally went to the same job, did this. I don't know how he did. I would have gone batty, and he did. He got his, like, engraved something or other when he retired. But I mean, he was pretty skilled at a lot of other things because he was a self-taught man. But, a lot of people say they pick their field, they get their degree, they go into that field. And sometimes I think it's the social pressure. Like, um, I'm an accountant. I can't work at Home Depot, to make extra money or whatever, like whatever your job is. Like there's sort of that social pressure because you have a title, but it's becoming obvious that a title's not going to pay your bills, right? Like we have to be, it kind of takes humility too to do what you have to do in these times to provide for your family and get your bills paid. And for some, I mean, I was looking for work. That's on pause now because number one, I don't want to be out there if I don't have to be. And it's just a crazy job market right now. There's no I don't know, I don't want to say no security, but who knows where it's going to go, right? So people are
Yeah.
laying off people. They're not going to hire more people. So
Well, to get back to your point about, a niche market, in business in general, if you can find a niche market, it can be very lucrative. You can do really well.
mhm,
But the risk there is that if for some reason that market, goes away, you're
mhm.
with not much. And so that's always the challenge. I think diversification is really important in business. Even if you have one main niche, it's always good to have some other irons in the fire, if you will, in that regard, so that you're not susceptible to that. Because right now there are a lot of industries that have just dried up, hopefully temporarily for just a short period of time. But if that's all that you're focused on and that industry is dried up right now, then it's going to hurt. It's really going to
Yeah.
hurt, and I'm seeing that right now, and it's hard to see.
Mm.
That's the risk of being more focused on a specific niche as opposed to being more of a kind of a generalist or a diversified business.
Um, Sorry, I just had to get rid of that window. Yeah, exactly. And I think, like you mentioned, change is very hard. I mean, I'm in New England, and no one hates change more than New Englanders. Let me tell you that. So it's really a shift on so many levels: emotional, secular, physical. Some of us are used to. I still see people out running. I'm in a suburb, so there's still a lot more people now out walking, running. But this just has, like, every routine of our life has been affected by it, and we either paralyze, right, with fear, or we adapt. It's kind of about learning to adapt and make substitute things. I don't know. It's just hard when you're the breadwinner of the family and it's income. There's a lot of pressure there. But thankfully, it seems like there's a lot of programs being set up to help people on a federal and local level.
Yeah, let me talk
Okay,
about adjustment real quick because this is pretty fascinating.
absolutely.
So I have a local gym. I'm a CrossFitter. That's the form of exercise that I really enjoy. And right now, of course, the gym is closed. You work out in close proximity with other people. You're using the same equipment and things like that. So they made the decision to close it down. But what's really, I mean, amazing is that they're programming now for things you can do at home, and even for people who don't have a home gym, because not everybody has the space in their house to
Right.
accommodate that. So they're coming up with these very creative workouts that are kind of helping people stay focused and stay, in as good condition as possible without the resources they had before. And again, I think just seeing that in play, seeing that in action, seeing businesses make these adjustments on the fly. Again, it's going to, in the long run, be a huge positive for everybody because you're coming up with new ways of doing things that you probably wouldn't even have thought of without this circumstance. But it's being able to adjust, being able to say, well, how can we still serve our people, or how can we still help people in this time?
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? That's really critical, and I can tell you that in my own experience, we're trying to figure out in our industry how to stay connected because trade shows are a big deal in our industry. We go to, several trade shows throughout the year. It's a
Mm-hmm.
main source of, lead generation and community and networking. And that's gone, that's not available right now, at least for the next, foreseeable future couple of months. They've all canceled or postponed. And so now we're thinking, well, how can we get together? How can we, kind of reinvent that or recapture some of that attention, some of that opportunity with customers? Because customers still need our products. In fact, I would say customers need our technology now more than they did before all of this. And so how can we serve the community? How can we use technology to do that? It's forcing all of us to think and be creative and come up with some new events and new ways of doing that. And I think that's really critical in this time.
Yeah, I posted last week on LinkedIn about this is a perfect example of prior to the pandemic hitting, did you upskill your teams with digital technology? Did you set things up so you could go online if you had to? And I think a lot of leaders, management, when things are working fine the way they are, number one, it's way less work to tackle all that, right? And everything's fine. Why fix something that's not broken? And I think that companies that were, forward thinking and had that training in place and had those online platforms set up, which includes social media platforms too, because that's a huge way. I mean, there's, Instagram Live, Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, all these platforms. Um, it, it's again a sign of good leadership. Unexpected, like where we have a shortage of masks, surgical masks or whatever you call them in this country. It's like there's all these sort of signals of things where you wouldn't associate that with leadership per se, but it's becoming associated with it now
Yeah.
because the leader's job is to prepare and take care of. Right? So I think companies that took this whole digital transformation technology thing seriously and educate their teams are in a much better place. They're already ahead of the curve. Now, like, I know you have an event coming up that is an online event, right? Something that you're planning. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we again, like I said, we've lost a lot of face time with customers because of the trade shows. Excuse me, the trade shows being canceled and postponed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's time that again is really important. And so we're trying to figure out how to do that. And with technology today, like you said, being forward thinking and having the tools that we have, it's not that difficult to actually do. We just have to think of how to make it work. And so what we're doing is we're creating excuse me, we're creating a 1-day online event where any vendor in our industry, any thought leader, influencer in our industry can sign up for a session, and then just use their video conferencing platform, whatever it may be, to put on whatever they're going to do, a demo or a panel or whatever it might be. And we're just inviting people in our industry through our networks, through LinkedIn, through other avenues in which we have these contacts. to come and join us. And the amazing thing is that for the most part, it's relatively free. It's low cost. I mean, it doesn't cost much to, to buy a domain and build a website to centralize the information for this. It doesn't cost much, more for the video conferencing platform. Most businesses already have one. There may be a small upgrade for a short time just to accommodate a larger number of people, but it's relatively inexpensive to do this. But it's just, forcing us to think outside the box of things we've never done before. We haven't had a need to hold a virtual conference before, even though it's the technology was there. We just haven't really had the need because we have physical conferences. So we're doing that on April 2nd. It's called One Day, Virtual Meetup. And it's going to be just a time for people in the transportation industry to hear about the latest technology innovations, to hear from influencers, and get information that's pertinent to right now and the situations that we're dealing with, whether it be legal or financial and things like that. So we're excited about that. We're looking forward to people going there and participating. The website is www.onedayvm.com. And that's where people can learn more information about it, where presenters can sign up for it. And we're specific to the transportation industry. That's the niche that we have. So we're excited to see who participates and how that goes.
Well, that's great. See, that's a great pivot. You're trying to figure out a way to do this right in a whole new, like you said, you had the tools there, you just didn't need to use them before. But if you do it once, you're set up now. Like it's the setting it all up, getting, like you said, all those pieces, getting the website, getting the bandwidth, whatever you need to host it. But then you've done the legwork for the next one. So it's right. And that's a smart move. That's good leadership, Trey.
We'll see how it goes.
So we talked, I told you yesterday that with everything going on, I would never go on a cruise again. Yikes. And you share that your family loves cruising, and which I get it. I wanted to share a story, which is like related to the ocean and a fear and leadership and everything in one. So, when my daughter was about 2.5, we took our boat. We had a 26-foot down east lobsterman's yacht vessel. I don't know what it was. It was an Acadia something. I am not a boat person. But anyway, we went to Cuttyhunk, which is one of the islands, the Elizabethan Islands off of the coast of Massachusetts. So the more famous ones are Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. Well, Cuttyhunk is one of the smaller, very remote. There's nothing to do there. It's like if you want to go somewhere and do nothing, this is the island you want to go to. So we took our vessel and we crossed the sea between here and there. It took us about 2.5 hours to get there on a calm day. Well, a storm came very fast, and there was white caps in the harbor at Cuttyhunk. My husband's been going there for decades. He'd never seen it. It was crazy. So he gets us up at 5 a.m. He's like, batten down the hatches. We're gonna try to beat it. Well, I was already terrified at that point. I'm like, no, we're gonna stay here. No, we're gonna, because he's got all the experience, and he did. He was very seaworthy. So we get the dinghy tied up in the whole thing, and off we go. The only boat leaving the harbor to try to get home. Well, when I tell you terrifying, I mean, I'm not, he said he's been in much worse water, and he probably has. But for me, it was the worst I'd ever been in. And to complicate it, I had my 2.5-year-old daughter on my lap, So at one point, the boat's sideways, and Mommy, why is the water on the window? It was just white knuckle. I mean, I swear it took 10 years off my life. So, and I was looking over at him, and I was so mad because he looked completely unaffected. He was just steering the boat, getting us home. And I didn't want to say anything like, aren't you scared? Because my daughter's on my lap, and it was, there's a lot of details of how harrowing it was. It took us 7 hours to get home. Wow. And it was terrifying. And there was a sailboat maybe a mile off, and it would disappear literally for 5 minutes before I would see it again. The swells were, wow. Yeah. So I'm telling you, if my daughter wasn't there, I would have said very bad things, because I was so mad at him for and it's that feeling of there's nothing you can do. Like you have zero control. You're in the situation and you're powerless. That's how I felt, which I hate that feeling. So we finally get back to the dock, tie the boat up, whatever. He passes out for like 2 hours, just passes out, which I knew was telling because if everything was fine, why did you just pass out down below? So anyway, later, a couple scotches later, I said, you have to tell me at least you were a little scared. And he goes, I was nervous. I was absolutely nervous. It was the first time we had this vessel. He had this vessel in bad water. So
Yeah.
it's a learning curve. I mean, every boat is different. He had a sailboat before. This is a whole different. So he said, but he goes, my job was to get you home. My job was to be the captain, and I had to be the captain.
Yeah.
So I don't, it was such a, I still wanted to kill him. Don't get me wrong, but it sort of created this, it was eye-opening for me because I knew he was nervous. I mean, we got your 2.5-year-old baby girl on a boat in high seas, right? Terrifying. But he didn't let on to that. Like he led us through that trial and got us home safe. I would never, ever do it again. I would have jumped in the harbor and swam to shore next time because it was hard. But my point is, it's as far as even when there's fear, right, there has to be good leadership. That's if you really want to be a leader, right, you have to be the captain of that boat in that storm because you set the tone. So his calmness kept me calmer. I wasn't calm by any means, but it helped keep me at a place that I could hang on to my kid and hang on to the chair and, and sort of get home. So I think it's just that like crisis management and setting the tone for that. But that's also another reason I'm not a fan of cruising, because if I was on a cruise ship and we were in that, I think I'd probably have a heart attack. But that's just a little
the
side.
critical element of that story is that you said he had been in rougher waters. He had trained for that. It wasn't new to him. And I think, when you look at great leaders that go through tough times, it's almost always the case that they have been prepared for that through something else. They've seen something very similar. They go into it knowing the danger, but also knowing that they have to come through. But it's the preparation, I think, that makes it so much easier. And it sounds like your husband was kind of in the zone that day, based on the fact that he'd been in something similar before, and he kind of knew what he had to do, even though it was difficult. And that is leadership. So it's a great story.
He says I exaggerate, but that's another story. But like I had not been on a boat in a storm ever in my life. So to me, that was the biggest, like that was, what's that movie with George? The Perfect Storm. I felt like I was in that movie. And I can't even watch that movie anymore. Okay. So leadership through crisis, through things right now, this is going to test a lot of people. But hopefully people will step up and do what they need to do.
Yeah. Like I said, I think adversity always, reveals character, it reveals preparation much more than it creates it. So I think we're seeing that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Trey. So I have a question that I ask. Actually, is there anything else you wanted to kind of get into? I was going to ask you a question, but is there anything else you wanted to? I know we talked about a lot of different topics yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk for hours, so it just depends on, I'm the kind of person that can fill space and love to tell stories. I did want to say one thing from our conversation yesterday, and it goes back to what we talked about. You at one point you'd referenced it, but 90% in the market is always better than 100% out of the market. And for perfectionists who want it to always be right or to be perfect, like you mentioned for yourself, exactly. Yeah. That can be a real challenge. And so I want to say kudos to you for starting this podcast, for, jumping out there when probably all the details weren't figured out and you had to learn a few things on the fly, because it's better to be where you are now, learning and figuring it out, than trying to get it all right first and then going into it. And so I just want to, give kudos to you for that, because I think that's a scary thing to do. It's a courageous thing to do. And I'm excited for you. I hope that you're learning a lot and that it just takes off and goes really well.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I know we did talk about that yesterday, and I had shared that, I was fired. I mean, I don't know if you know my whole story, but it's a big story. But anyway, I had set the date to launch it on my 5-month anniversary, and I was nowhere where I wanted to be by that point. But I took a walk, and I was like, you know what? Just do it. Like, done is better than perfect. Get it, and then you're committed. I mean, once you say I'm doing this, now you're committed. So it's and I'm also grateful now with what's going on that I have this to focus on, because it gives me some bit of routine to my day, or I have clients to follow up with, people that are going to be interviewed. I'm just grateful I did it, even though I was scared and I felt like I was not putting my best foot forward when I launched it. It's working out good. So I do appreciate your cheerleading.
Yeah, absolutely. Once you've made that commitment, and you have that attitude that you're going to do it, it changes the entire game. Your commitment level is much higher. Your stick to itness, your figure it out, mentality kicks into high gear, and you start to do things that if you hadn't committed, you might have just put off to the side. And so it really is the attitude and the belief that leads to a different behavior, that leads to a result. And so having that commitment was the attitude that has pushed you to this point where now you have a podcast up and running. It's very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. I think that word commitment is important today, because I think we joked, it's not funny, but it kind of is, that like, this whole thing is going to be really good for divorce lawyers, unfortunately, and a new baby boom coming, because people are going to use this one way or the other. It's either being stuck at home with a spouse and not making things work, and being committed to your commitment to each other, come what may, for better or for worse, is going to be a challenge for a lot of people. But like you said, once you make that commitment, it doesn't matter what storm comes. You're in for the long haul, and that's the blessing of having that view in life, because that's going to help people navigate this storm. As families, as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as businesses. I mean, there may come a point professionally that things have to be let go, maybe temporarily, because like we've talked about the market and everything, but that's not a sign of failure. I mean, if you've exhausted every option and you have to get to that point, it is what it is. But that commitment to not give up is a game changer for people. Like I said,
right. I think that a lot of times, people don't realize that the obstacle in front of you is the way. That's the way, whatever it might be. And when you're committed, you view it that way, and you don't look to go around it. You don't look to find an exit path or way to get out. You just go through it. And I think that is really critical. It is funny though. I have a feeling that this Christmas there's going to be quite the baby. You just put two people that love each other in the same house for weeks. I'm just 10
months later.
That
could be a way that the economy gets bolstered. Everyone needs diapers. Everyone needs formula. Everyone needs baby clothes, and
it'll come back. People are going to need to upgrade their houses, of course, because they're going to need more space, and they're going to need to buy new clothes. So yeah, it will for sure. But I have a feeling that that's probably going to happen.
It's usually a pattern in history, right?
That's right. That's right.
Which is actually, it's a beautiful result of it. Let's be positive.
Big events tend to do that. The soldiers coming back from the war, a World Series victory. I mean, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and we won the Super Bowl, and the fact that we even made it to the Super Bowl for the first time in 50 years was a big deal. But then to win it was kind of the icing on the cake. And I'm pretty sure there are going to be some Super Bowl babies from Kansas City as well. A mini boom in Kansas City like in September, and in the rest of the country and the world in December and January.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, and congratulations on that, coming from a Patriots fan.
Yeah, well, excellence and winning, and I'm hoping that we're about to go on our run to mimic what you guys have experienced for the last 20 years.
I know we were kind of joking, like, okay, global pandemic and Tom Brady's leaving the Patriots. It's been a bad couple of weeks, I'll tell you.
That's right.
Tom, I hope you're listening.
I recently saw a headline that was just kind of along those lines of, this was canceled. Tom Brady's playing for the Buccaneers and something else. And he goes, "What world are we living in?" And So speaks to the excellence of Tom Brady. I'm not a Patriots fan, but I am a fan of excellence. And
Hmm.
so he is somebody that I could watch any day of the week, even though I wouldn't root for the team just because I'm not from there. But I could watch him because he really does things excellence. I think people are drawn to excellence. People want to watch excellence.
Hmm.
And what's interesting about excellence, one of my hashtags is be excellent today. One of the things that I'm promoting to people is the idea of pursuing excellence every day. And what's interesting about that is that I don't need to tell people what excellence is. Everybody knows what excellence looks like. If you're a parent, you know what it means to be an excellent parent. The question is, are you going to pursue it? Are you going to do it? And
Right.
looking at somebody like Tom Brady, you see excellence in him in everything he does, in the preparation work, and he doesn't skip steps. And that's, winners win, and it's not an accident. They win for a reason.
Yeah.
And the same person with different people wins over and over and over again. You have to tip your hat and say that guy's excellent. And I'm hoping that Patrick Mahomes will be that for us that we have. He's already said he wants to be like Tom Brady and some of these other legends like Peyton Manning. So we hope that he does that. But, I think that people are drawn to excellence. And the more that we can pursue excellence on an individual level, the better it is overall for the community,
Right.
because, that's just a byproduct of it. So I think that's people like Tom Brady are great people to look up to, and to be reminded that even though I'm not a professional football player, I'm just a dad, I'm just a husband, I'm just a salesman, I'm just an associate. How can I pursue excellence in those things? How can I prepare and be ready and just be excellent? So yeah, be excellent today. That's my hashtag.
Be excellent today. Yeah. And speaking to what you spoke of earlier about being successful and good at things, but not being the best, right? You sort of resented that, or that was in your youth. Now that you're older, I mean, you think of Tom, what was he, 199th draft
Yeah,
pick? Or
that's right.
I don't know all the stats and everything. I'm a
That's
fan,
right.
but so that, he came from a place of mediocrity. Sorry, Tom, if you're listening, but he wasn't the best of the best, but he became, right? He did
Yeah.
put the work in, and look at the result of that. So that's one of the things I love about his story. Like he, I mean, I don't know if I'd be like, forget it. I'm going to go back to college. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to play
Yeah.
football. I'm not going to live with this over me. But he took it as a challenge, and he took that
Yeah.
challenge on, and he's had a phenomenal career. Absolutely.
He had the right mentality the whole way. He still
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outlook is huge. So, be excellent today. I love that. I was just making some notes as you're mentioning things. So when I do the description for the podcast, I can add some stuff in there.
I
So,
actually I
um,
merged the E's and the T's, so I was trying to be clever, but it's be excellent today with only one E and only one T between the words. So
okay.
it's a little difficult, but that's I was trying to be clever and probably overthought it.
Okay. So, okay. I gotcha. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You got to have that. You got to find your hashtag. That's important today.
that's
I say
right.
that to people too. If you're going to start a movement or a brand or something, find your hashtag because you need that. It's so funny how things trend or promote today. It's a whole different world.
It
So
is.
speaking of it being a whole different world, the my incentive for starting the Gentlewoman Boss, which I picked the name, then I'm like, ooh, I hope that doesn't ostracize like the guys, the males out there that are intrigued by it, but that it's like, is this a girl thing? It's absolutely not. I mean, I am a woman. I was fired by a woman. So it was just I leaned toward that part of women working with women in the workplace, treating each other respectfully with civility, um, with trust, with transparency, because that was my personal experience. But obviously, it's genderless. It's for everyone. The qualities of a gentleman or a gentlewoman are one and the same. So in this crazy world we're living in, what quality of a gentleman do you think is most important to emulate and why?
And then this is where I get to show my word. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so I wrote it down here. So you already said it one time. You almost stole my thunder there, but I wrote down humility.
Oh, love it.
And I told you yesterday that this was a very difficult exercise because picking one word is very challenging to do that. But I think when I see a leader who it demonstrates humility, genuine humility. Some people think humility is having low self-esteem, and I disagree with that. I think humility is not thinking, less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's thinking of others more, and leading from a place of how can I serve? How can I benefit you? How can I bless you? And the leaders that display humility, it doesn't mean that they're weak. It doesn't mean that they aren't able to get the job done. It means, in my opinion, that they have a proper view of themselves in light of the world, in light of their circle, their influence. Some of the best leaders are the ones who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty and serve. And so when I think of humility, I think of servant leadership. I think of, there's a book that I read long ago called Tender Warrior. And the idea of the book was being tender, being humble, being able to empathize with others and to feel is not a sign of weakness or a detriment. It's a sign of strength. And so I love that phrase, the tender warrior. And I think that captures the idea of humility and leadership, in that we're still a warrior. We're still, we're going to fight. We're going to go after it. We're going to lead strong, but we're going to do it from a place of humility, from a place of empathy. And so that's why I chose that word.
I love that term, tender warrior. I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Thought I lost my mic there. Well, I love that you picked humility. It's one of I think it's because of societal pressures, people struggle with it because they feel like showing humility is a sign of weakness, when it's the absolute opposite. It takes strength to be humble. It takes strength to admit I don't have the answer. It takes strength to say I was wrong, or teach me, I don't understand. All of that takes humility. And if as a leader you can't get to that place, you're not a leader.
Yeah.
Right.
It's interesting too, because I think that you touched on something that's really important too. Some of the best leaders that I've ever been around are the ones that were the most curious, were the ones that recognized that they didn't know it all. They wanted to learn. They surrounded themselves with people smarter than them, or able to do things in areas that they were not strong in those areas. And they weren't intimidated by that. They weren't, threatened by that in any way. And that's a sign of humility. The ability to come into any situation and say, what can I learn from you? You know something I don't know, and I want to get better. I want to grow. And I love the questions that start with, how do you, or why do you? Because that's really digging into understanding, a person and what they know and their experiences and how I can learn from them. So to me, that my favorite questions to ask when I'm in a group of people, especially people I've never been with before, is how do you do this? Or why do you do this? And those questions lead to some tremendous insight and wisdom and knowledge that you wouldn't get otherwise, especially if you walk into every room thinking you're the smartest one in the room. And if you are the smartest one in the room, then you're in the wrong room, in my opinion.
You're in the wrong room. I was just going to finish your sentence. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I think because finding out someone's why is kind of a peek into their soul. That's
absolutely.
Yeah, like if you're willing, so like my why is I want to give people that have been, victims of workplace bullying or toxic culture or treated unfairly for doing the right and ethical thing. I want to give them their voice back and encourage them. You no matter what happens, right is right. So I don't know. So that's my why. I mean, as far as this project, I have a lot of whys, but they sort of all overlap each other. Like I said, rooting for the underdog, trying to be the voice for people that can't speak. I think, and we have to know our own personal why. We have to know our why before we can really affect any change or even grow personally. Right. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a great book out there called Start With Why. And it leads to that of, before you start making plans, figure out, why you're even thinking about making plans and what that means. And so I think that is critical. Absolutely.
Purpose driven. Okay. So Trey, you talked about the one-day virtual meetup coming up that you're hosting, the digital online event. But if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
Yeah, so there's several ways to do that. I'm on LinkedIn, and I create a lot of content on LinkedIn. So you can just look me up with that. My name, Trey Griggs. They can also find me on Twitter. My hashtag is Be Excellent Today on Twitter. And then, of course, if they want to reach out to me via email, they could send an email to beexcellenttoday@gmail.com.
Okay.
That's also a way to get a hold of me. And so happy to help people out in any way I can, share what I've learned, and certainly would like to learn from as many people as I can.
That's great, Trey. So I'll put all of that information in the podcast description, and when I share it on social media, I'll plug your handles there as well.
Yeah. Oh, and
As
one
well.
more is that you can also go to my blog site at beexcellenttoday.com, where I write blogs from time to time. Probably not as much as I would like to, but when something comes into my mind that I want to share, I put it on there. So that's a way to also follow what I'm doing.
Great, great. Building your brand, Trey. Be excellent today. That's awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. Please take care of you and your family and your loved ones and neighbors. I know you will.
Thanks
And
for
I hope maybe we can do it again. Maybe we'll do a 1 year follow-up, and it'll be a whole different topic to
it might
talk
be an
about.
entirely different environment, and I'm happy to do that. Best wishes to you in this. I think what you're doing is great, and I just wish you the most success possible.
All right, great. Thanks, Trey.